In a grand palace nestled within the golden sands of an ancient kingdom, there ruled a king whose heart had grown dark with envy. Known for his riches, his power, and his influence, the king was respected by many but loved by few. And in his court was a man far different, a wise scholar whose knowledge and humility earned him the admiration of all who met him. But the king despised the scholar, not for any wrong he had done, but because his wisdom cast a shadow over the king's arrogance. One evening, the king invited the scholar to a feast, a lavish banquet held in the scholar's honor. The scholar, ever humble, graciously accepted. As he entered the palace hall, filled with laughter and music, he sensed a tension that lay beneath the merriment. The long table, adorned with golden goblets and the finest food, stretched before him. But it was the king's smile, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, that caught the scholar's attention. And when the king raised a golden chalice filled to the brim with the finest elixir, offering it to the scholar, he knew something was amiss. The scholar took the chalice, his fingers brushing the cold metal, feeling the weight of the moment. The king watched, eyes glinting with anticipation, waiting for the scholar to drink, waiting for his plan to unfold. But the scholar did not lift the chalice to his lips. Instead, he looked the king in the eye, and with a calmness that came from years of wisdom, he spoke. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice soft yet strong, "before I drink, may I share a story with you? A lesson that I believe would benefit both of us this night?" The king, caught off guard by the scholar's request, nodded. He could hardly deny the man's final wish. And so, the scholar began. Once, the scholar began, there was a ruler, much like yourself, who held power over a vast kingdom. But this ruler was tormented by envy. There was a man in his court, honest, wise, and beloved by the people. The ruler, feeling threatened by the admiration shown to this man, plotted to destroy him. So, he invited the man to a feast and offered him a cup of poisoned elixir. The king's fingers tightened on his own chalice as the scholar continued. But the wise man, knowing the ruler's intentions, did not drink. Instead, he offered the ruler a choice between treachery and redemption. The ruler could carry on with his plan, knowing that by killing the wise man, he would also lose the trust of his people. Or he could admit his envy, seek forgiveness, and rule his kingdom with wisdom and integrity, guided by the very man he sought to destroy. As the scholar spoke, the hall grew silent. The king, for the first time that night, felt the weight of his actions. His plan had been laid bare, his treachery exposed, not through confrontation, but through the gentle wisdom of the very man he intended to betray. The scholar placed the chalice gently on the table, never once breaking eye contact with the king. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice filled with quiet strength, "tonight, you stand at the same crossroads as that ruler, and the choice is yours to make." The king's heart raced. His mind swirled with thoughts of power, envy, and the consequences of his actions. He had been exposed, not by force, but by wisdom. And in that moment, the king saw clearly. His arrogance had led him astray. With a trembling hand, the king set down his own chalice. "Scholar," he said, his voice hoarse, I sought to harm you, out of envy and fear. But your wisdom has spared me from my own folly. I ask for your forgiveness and your guidance, for I see now that true power lies not in the throne, but in the heart." The scholar smiled, a smile as gentle as the evening breeze. "Your Majesty," he said, "forgiveness is given to those who seek it. Let us move forward, not as enemies, but as allies. For there is no greater strength than humility, and no greater wisdom than the knowledge of one's own flaws." And so the chalice remained untouched. The feast continued, but its purpose had changed. That night, the king was not only a ruler, he became a student, learning that wisdom and humility were worth more than all the riches in his kingdom. The scholar's story teaches us that knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing how to use that power for good. And in the end, the greatest lesson of all is that even the strongest must learn to bend, lest they break. What would you choose if offered the poisoned chalice? Thank you for joining us in this tale of wisdom, humility, and redemption. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories filled with lessons that reach beyond time. And remember, the most valuable treasure is the wisdom you carry within you.